How you doing, everybody? And welcome back to the Marine Corps Reserve Association podcast. My name is Johnny Jones, and I'm honored to have with me Master Gunnery Sergeant Kerry Jones, who just retired from a very successful career in the Marine Corps. So, Master Gunnery Sergeant, I know we were just talking about some things that you used to mentor junior Marines on, especially financial literacy. Do you mind touching on that a little bit?
My father-in-law and I talk about all the time is just teaching financial literacy to the less fortunate. I think
Mm.
there is a we talk about a wealth gap and things of that nature, but I think more so than just giving someone money is about teaching them how to manage what they have and what assets to put the resources they have into some things that's going to appreciate and value and build wealth for them that way. So we talk about that all the time, and hopefully, Lord's willing, over the next year or so, I'm able to get something started to help out in that arena. So, but yeah, what you're doing, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Giving someone an opportunity is what we're missing around for folks, knowledgeable folks like you, pouring back into folk that has the will. Because one thing you can't teach is will, right? Is effort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I tell I used to tell guys this all the time. I don't care what you know or what you don't know, as long as you have the will and you want to put forth the effort to learn, because you can't teach effort, right? So
Yep.
that's kind of how I look at it.
And I feel like you were the mentor I always talk about when I talk to people all the time. I was like, hey, he's my work dad because we had the same last name. Actually, you had the same first name too. But that specific thing you said is what I always say. Like I always gravitated to people with the will. Maybe they didn't necessarily have the knowledge, which is fine. You can always teach that, but it's hard to teach, like you said, people that it's hard to teach to care. Like yeah, it's hard to teach to care, to try to, to want to push. And in our field, in the comm field, in the Marine Corps, I felt it was difficult, especially because some folk, how the assignment of MOSs are, and so some folk may not have been necessarily interested, and so they didn't put as much effort as you would have wanted to. And so yeah, so it's always great to see the ones that was their situation, but they still made lemonade out of it, and
Right,
they end up being great, even though you know.
right. And you were a witness to that in our old unit, where those individuals, some of them would not have had the opportunity in other units or just in life in general. And you did a great thing by pulling them aside, establishing certain classes. My job was easy, and I tell everybody this. I had a great team. I kind of shared my overall vision with you all, and tried to make sure that I was able to assist in helping you all procure as many resources as you can, uh, to help out in whatever endeavor we needed to do. But you guys did that. You guys, through your actions, through just your efforts, people gravitated to that, and they wanted to be, a Sergeant Jones, a Staff Sergeant Jones. They wanted to be that, and you just was our go-to guy, and I didn't have a problem, putting that responsibility on you because I understood your passion for it. I understood your work ethic, and those are things that you just can't teach, right? And so I will always kind of by default lean on individuals that show that want to,
Mm.
that just may, and then you try to bring the other ones along that don't, but you put the ones that have that fire in them. You put them in the hot seat and say, hey, listen, I'm gonna support you. Good, bad, or whatever, or indifferent. This is our baby. This is what we're gonna do. We rise and fall together, and I think that is what was taught to me. And I just kind of, continued that process throughout my career. So, um, you know, and you know that though. I'm
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because you say folks were trying to emulate me, but I was doing my best to emulate you.
right,
Not just not just you as a Marine, but you as a man too, because we had a lot of conversations
right,
that were not specifically military related. You
right,
taught me. I mean, honestly, you taught me a lot about the African American history in the military that I was not. I was not aware of at the time. A lot of times you had those hip pocket classes or
right,
even the structured courses that you gave that I think were extremely valuable to folks that were my age group or younger that
right,
didn't know the history.
right. And history is important. You need to know the history that you're dealing with because it helps you progress from that, well, or move forward in life. Instead of relearning those same lessons over again. I think in society in general, as we progress, people, especially some of the younger people, say, okay, we're not there anymore, yada yada yada, and so we don't put as much emphasis on it, and that allow other folk that don't share the same history to shape a certain narrative, and then you have
Mm.
all the this other nonsense, and now you have races fighting against each other. You have different political affiliations fighting against each other. You have different branches of services fighting against each other. And that's because, we fail to learn history and we fail to teach it in a meaningful way, instead of kind of just thumbing through it. Uh, you all remember this when I used to give those classes in the Corps. I kind of hated using like Black history or African American history because it's our history. It was a part of
Mm.
Marine Corps history. Yeah, someone Black did it, yeah, which is important to me, obviously as a African American myself. But it was a part of history. So my point is, we should not be relegated to teaching that history just 1 month out of the year. You know,
Mm. Yep.
whereas when we talk about things like what did Dan Daly do, what did Smedley Butler do, what did this guy do, we teach that constantly, right?
Mm.
So we need to teach all history on a continuum, so everybody can have an appreciation for it instead of just being relegated to a specific time period, so that's kind of why I shied away from saying, okay, hey, this is African American history. You all would very rarely hear me say that, but it just worked out to where we kind of put more emphasis on it during the month of February because it just coincided with what we know have come to known as Black History Month. But as you can see from those classes that I used to give, it didn't; those actions didn't just take place in the month of February,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so that's kind of how I viewed it. But hopefully I was able to get some things across to some people. You know, we'll see. We'll see.
No, I will completely agree with you, and I think it did. It definitely did touch folks because we all paid attention. We paid attention when you spoke,
Mhm.
so yeah, everything that came out of your mouth, we made sure we understood and we digested it properly. So
Right.
I can definitely attest that folks definitely did pay attention. But I'd like to pause there on the history moment
Okay.
and kind of I want to ask you something a little bit more personal. So about your history. So out of all the services, why did you join the Marine Corps specifically?
I laugh when you ask that question, and the reason being is, to be honest with you, I never thought in a million years that I would join the Marine Corps. Uh, well, any service, let alone the Marine Corps. Um, so right after high school, I actually I attended this ITT Tech. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It was an institution. I think they're out of business now. Um, I did that for about 6 months. Was a bad student, not in the sense that I was, didn't understand the curriculum. I just didn't go to class because I had other priorities. So I was, shuck and jive with friends, doing things, mischievous things that a teenager would do at that time, fresh out of high school. And so my uncle, he have always been infatuated with the service. He never joined. In particular, he's always been infatuated with the Marine Corps. So I moved out of my mom's house and I stayed with my uncle for a few months. And one day he just said, "Hey, get up, we got somewhere to go." And I said, "Okay." So he took me and drove me straight to the recruiter's office. No lie, And so he was like, "Yeah, I just want you to talk to him and whatnot." And I talked to the recruiter, and I was like, "Man, I'm not joining any service or anything like that." So the recruiter said, "Okay, well," he gave me a spiel or whatnot, but I wasn't interested. So I dodged him for about 3, maybe 4 months, and then unfortunately, a bad situation happened where I witnessed one of my friends, childhood friends, get killed. And like a couple of days later, I called the recruiter and I said, "Hey, listen, if I'm gonna leave, I need to leave right now." So he was like, and just give you some pretense. I had already taken the ASVAB in high school.
Okay.
So he was able to use, my ASVAB high school score from there, because back then that was a requirement that you had to take either the ASVAB, the SAT, or ACT, in high school. So I did that. So my score and my test scores were still current enough to where if I wanted to go in, that was one less thing I had to worry about. So I called him, and he said, first thing he asked me, "Well, did you get in any trouble? Are you in jail?" I said, "No, that's not the case." I said, "But you know when it's time." And so he said, "Okay, well, let me see what I have." And fortunately enough for me, they had a spot for what they considered a direct ship. So this was December 23rd, 1993. I was a direct ship to Parris Island, South Carolina. And no one knew I had joined the Marine Corps. No one knew where I was at until my mother received a letter, the little postcard. "Hey, I'm yada yada yada. I'm here. I'm okay," and what have you. I did attempt to make a phone call, but unfortunately, that time of night, no one answered the phone. I left a message or whatnot, so she may or may not have checked it. And we had to answer. We didn't have the like digital IP voice answering machines back then. You had the tape recorder.
The cassette, yeah.
So someone probably erased it. I'm not sure, but she got that letter about a week later, after I had already picked up with my platoon or whatnot, and we kind of wrote back and forth. But that was it. That was how the decision was made to join the Marine Corps. I can't take credit for that. That was all my uncle's doing, but I tell you, it was probably not only one of the best decisions that I made in my life, but it probably also saved my life from a lot of heartache and pain and a lot of mischief. So I thank God for that. That He placed me in that position and placed my uncle in that position during that time to kind of change the direction where I was heading. So